I put my
Oh,
Surfy Bear box up as well. So.
I
yeah.
didn't even know about these.
Do you guys know what this particular Surfy Bear means for
No.
the channel?
Not that one.
All right, this particular one we made videos. I bought this one from Ted from Satan's Pilgrim, and I reached out to Jason Deathridge from the Surfin in Canada. I mean, we got in contact with all these bands: the Bloat Floaters, the Green Reflectors, Surf Hermits, Angry Red Planet, Wiped Out, Underwater Bosses, Jim and the Sea Dragons, Chillingsworth Surfing Ham, and Lewis Bailey. And let's see if I. Anyways, we sent this all over North America and so Canada and the United States, and we got all these bands to make videos of them demoing it and like playing songs and stuff, and then we get to send it back here on the set. So we have that on our channel, all the videos from all the bands.
Oh, cool.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that kind of, it's like sentimental, you know?
Yeah, reverb is such an issue and something many guitarists talk about. I rotated through about 7 pedals and finally broke down and bought the Surfy Bear, and I'm very happy.
Yeah, but tell me about your Surfy Bear and why. I mean, generally, what's happening is people, when they go out and play out live, especially like on tour, they don't want anything to happen to their, you know, their unit. So they take something that's kind of like on the more affordable, replaceable side, because they don't want anything to happen to their tank. Is that the issue that you kind of came up into?
A little bit, because I'm in Seattle, so I have to have something that I can fly down with. So I get a pedal amp, a pedal board with an amp and pedal. So for that, I've settled on an Oceans 3
Okay.
as a stomp box pedal. But for recording, there's to me nothing like that initial attack through an output reverb that is really nice. And for special shows like if we play the Huntington Beach Pier again, then I would travel down with the Surfy Bear for the optimum sound.
You
Other
have the
sound
shirt on
challenge.
right there.
Yeah, I've got the shirt. I'm ready to go.
Nice. When they start April?
Actually,
Go ahead.
yeah, it starts in April and runs through October. And actually, a nice storyline to bring up is really our avenue to Jeff is through John's heavy metal band Santa Sabbath, which I find fascinating. John, I think that's correct, that your intro to Jeff was through that, not a surf band.
The last 15 years have been playing in this, well, let's call it a heavy metal holiday spirit band.
Nice.
And
it's Black Sabbath, right?
It's classic Black Sabbath songs with all the lyrics about Santa. So, Hole in the Sky is Sled in the Sky, Children of the Grave, Children of the Sleigh, Sweet Leaf is Sweet Tree, killing yourself to live is giving yourself a gift. So it's been kind of a wild trip, and these are with my buddies, and Jeff Hanson is a big Santa Sabbath fan, and this only, we only play a couple times a year, and we all have our other or main projects, and basically, I don't know, somewhere along the line, he figured out I was playing in this sort of alt surf guitar instrumental band that we sort of call ourselves, and he's been a huge supporter, and it's just been really wonderful. He's opened some doors for us, and he's also, for me, been an endless resource for learning about other surf bands. So I don't think anyone works harder in this business than he does, promoting other bands and setting up shows and stuff. And he's really been a great asset to us.
I agree with 100%. And I can say firsthand, in 2022, I went out to SG 101.
Okay.
And I stayed with Jeff. And where Jeff went, I went. So I went to work with him. And I wasn't doing the best health wise, but I got to see a day in the life of Jeff Hanson.
Yeah.
And big Tiki dude wakes up super early, goes out, and he does his day job. And he's making calls and he's connecting with everybody, making sure not only is the SG 101 go off without a hitch, but then he's got, to worry about, his winter festival, Surfin Sundays coming up.
That's right.
He's got the normal shows that he does, and not to mention the DJing he does, all dedicated to surf music. And I stay with him. Like, the guy doesn't sleep but 4 hours a night. So, the fact that, and when I was in the truck with him before the accident, he was playing Sabbath. He's like, "What do you want to listen to?" And I'm like, "I know you're a metalhead, so what do you got?" And he put Sabbath on. I'm like, "Okay, National Anthem." So that might be a tune you might be interested in, National Anthem.
Okay, all right. I think it was. I know where we crossed paths with Jeff. It was because we played at the 20th anniversary South Bay Surf Stomp. That's where we crossed paths with Jeff, and he's like, "Oh, I know you." And this is kind of an interesting story. The guy that founded this South Bay Surf Stomp is Adrian. God, I can't remember his last name now, but he was a longtime friend of mine. We had rehearsal rooms next to each other in downtown Los Angeles for about 20 years. And Adrian Anthony. And he had a band called Chum, which I think is the greatest name for a surf band ever. You know what Chum is, right? It's a fish used for fishing.
Yeah.
And basically, and he started doing this South Bay Surf Stomp Festival every year because he was having a hard time booking his own band in regular traditional surf festivals because they were perhaps a little too rock and roll, a little too rambunctious. And he, unfortunately, he left us in, I want to say 2021. He was working, mixing his album in a studio for his regular rock band, and unfortunately had a heart attack and left us that night. But his spirit continued with the 20th anniversary Surf Stomp, which I hope comes back. It's been a couple years now, but it was an all-day tribute to Anthony, and there were just some fantastic bands. We were closing the 12-hour concert and got to play after Slack Tone, and we were closing it. We were closing it because I think they forgot to book us. And then it was like, oh, okay, we'll just put you on the end. And, we watched Slack Tone. I was like, holy crap, Dusty Watson. And those guys were freaking incredible. And I was I just kind of pulled the guy, I felt like we were watching the Yes of surf bands or something. They were just so technically proficient. Anyways, we just sort of gathered everyone before we got on stage and was like, hey, let's just go do our thing. And it was actually sort of the perfect ending to the event. with just good feeling and our sort of our vibe of how we play. And I think Charlie swapped the set list around at the last second, so we opened with our tribute to the Dam's "Wait for the Blackouts." And,
Wait, that is a song that hooked me on you guys.
Okay.
First of all, that's got to be in my top 10 of all-time best songs.
Really?
I love the Dam. I love the Black Album. And I got it, like, the first time I heard that song, I was in my teens, you know. And
there were plenty of punkers there, and I think Dave Arnson was the first one up front, jumping up and down, and that was just great. And that's when Jeff showed up, and that's sort of how we got his attention. And Charlie has a connection to the Damned as well.
Tell me.
Dave Vanian's wife was the bass player in Lethal Weapon, and that Los Angeles punk rock band when it initially started back in the late 70s. Still stay in contact with her, and our band opened for the Dam at a historic club called Godzilla's way back when. And actually Brian James is one of, I'll say, strong influences in terms of guitarists.
Yeah.
Just really great aggressive approach and sound.
What year was that you played at Godzilla with them?
It had to be right around 80, 79, 80.
Okay. And that Godzilla's was out in the San Fernando Valley. Where was that?
Yeah. And luckily an industrial area right off the railroad tracks and an abandoned bowling alley. So people could be as rowdy and wild as they wanted. And so it lasted a while before finally being shut down. Yeah, that was a fun venue.
Yeah, so that must have been around like Machine Gun Etiquette time, somewhere around there.
Yeah, Brian James had left. They had the guy from Eddie and the Hot Rods filling in until Captain Sensible, I guess, got good enough on guitar to take over.
Yeah. And might I say, when Captain Sensible came back, I was like, damn, like the guitar, like, you know, like I guess the precision, like there was a huge jump when the Black Album came out and Machine Gun Etiquette.
And I still love to see him live. I caught him. I live in Seattle now. Saw him at the Showbox Theater. And Rat Scabies was back on drums, and and Paul Gray was on bass. The original lineup with the new keyboard guy who seems to play kind of stage mother to it all. But it gives me hope as a gray bearded guy. It was as aggressive, just a kick-ass rock show.
Yeah.
Melting people's face with the energy levels coming off the stage. Oh, with the Avengers opening, which was a treat.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, there you go, punk rock history. And, punk rock was one of my prompts to surf, playing in Legal Weapon, the Agent Orange album with Pipeline and Miserlou. Kind of woke me up, and then I saw the Plimsolls, the Ventures open for the Plimsolls at the Starwood, another venerated old venue. And seeing and that was early enough that Noki Edwards was still playing, and Mel, the drummer. So seeing that lineup, seeing Noki Edwards on stage was eye-opening. So I'm lucky enough to have seen Dick Dale, Link Ray, and Noki Edwards play, and that sort of set a sonic, that's sort of the North Star that I'll spend a lifetime gazing at and making a stab at. But
Noki Edwards, he had that real like heavy string kind of almost percussive playing, but the technicality of the playing was amazing. But the look on his face was just like he was like in the zone, and it was just like effortless for him.
It's just calm confidence, and that's where an example where it was all coming through his hands, and it still felt like a gut punch at times. kind of at the other end is Dick Dale, who's channeling some primitive, crazy force.
Yes.
The few times I saw him, that was like force of nature time. Weirdly enough, same with Link Ray, a little bit more subdued, like a wolf prowling the stage. But again, it really taught me there's something in the hands and the attitude that goes beyond sort of technical prowess. And that also gave me confidence, especially Link Ray, seeing him play. He's not a he's not a shredder, but just the most straight ahead approach and sound. And actually, Jeff commented quite a bit on my sound, and he got me away from a JCM 800 and back to a Bassman head. He really did not like the shrill JCM 800, but in my mind, I'm looking for drive with drip, really overdriven power tubes, but enough of a reverb tank that still gets that percussive front end and then the tail. And to me, that's still a little bit elusive. At volume, with things really overdriven. I don't know if Dick Dale did it. I've seen people use the same equipment, Showman with the reverb tank. But again, I think it's, the massive strings, just how he plays came through in his sound. Have not heard it replicated.
I saw him by accident. Like, I was just walking down, I think I saw the flyer or poster on South Street in Philadelphia. And I was just like, damn, and like went immediately to the show because I almost missed it. And that's a lot of times in Philadelphia in the 90s, that's how you wound up seeing bands. You're walking down and you look at some record shop in the window and there's a poster, and they're like, oh shit, there's no cell phones to put it in. Like, oh, you know what I mean? Like in the early 90s, there's no cell phone, like get your GPS there. You got to know the city, and you have to know, okay, this is how long it's going to take you to walk there from South Street, where I am right now, and you have to know your way around. That's how we used to, walk around the city to get to know it. And I was able to, by myself, because there was nobody else around at that particular moment, I was by myself, and I was able to walk to the club, which I don't remember the name of, to see him. And as huge as Dick Dale was, he was not above showing up and just saying, hey, can I play? You know what I mean? And like, people would get wind of this, and he just managed to gather people just on a whim. You know what I mean?
That's how you only got cool people to show up at shows. They had to get the flyer, see the flyer, know something.
Yeah. I'm one of those guys.
I do have a question for you, time permitting, or maybe shortly after, is one of the challenges for bands like ours and others, kind of with a very specific niche approach, is how do you get the word out? And I see Pi Records as one of these, I'll call it a hub of information.
Yes.
So, number one, thanks for including us, because you've got quite a catalog of interviews and information. So, I'm personally proud to be, hopefully this makes the cut for you to post it. But again, you operating as an information hub, what are you looking for in bands that trigger your interest to spend your time?
I will give you as simple but detailed as I can. I grew up with surf music, and what I look at is there's certain people like Hunter King, Bob Bailey, and John Blair who document things about surf music. But other than them, there's really not a YouTube outlet for documentation. Now, on the internet, you have the SG101 forum, which is amazing. You have the convention where you have the live aspect, but as far as YouTube, uploading to there is permanent. That's on YouTube, and it's a visual document of the bands that, and every single surf band is, a part of that history. So documenting and cataloging every aspect of like the gear videos and the rehearsal videos and the interviews. And getting to know the band is, you know, my goal. I find, you know, I learned a lot about the people who are documenting it along the way. And for me, an inspiration was Ian Mackay of Minor Threat and Fugazi and Discord, how he not doesn't document punk rock, but he does document DC punk rock and hardcore, and that is his passion. For, you know, Discord is pretty much a document of the history of punk rock and hardcore and independent music in DC, and I saw YouTube as an outlet to document modern and who's left of that 60s, you know, first wave, second wave, and third wave of surf music, and I just didn't find it all in one spot. And I love being that guy that does that work. And I have a very long history of working in television, and I can use those skills now to do this. So that's me, you know.
Been enjoying your channel.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And you are welcome to participate in as many segments as you like. I encourage that because I can make, you know, and I like to get the message out that I can make really like a virtual press kit out of it, where you just make a playlist on YouTube and you include all the videos that the band has made, be it a rehearsal.
Yeah, I saw your playlists posted. So that's a way to engage and continue sort of, I'll call it joint promotion. I also like your rehearsal video. So John and I and Steve just did a really fun version of Frankenstein in our very hip, funky rehearsal space. So maybe we'll have to send you a video of that.
Yeah, send me like an MP4 or a movie file, and I'll upload it to Pi Records, and I'll do a review of your album. And I'll put your rehearsal video in there, and along with the interview, so you'll have a playlist of 3 videos that people can get to know the band in different ways. You know what I mean? They get a sample of the music, they get your one-on-one with the interview, and then they see you in, like, you know, your comfortable space, you know, where you feel the most comfortable in your rehearsal space as a band. And I think in those respects, people don't get to see a lot of that on YouTube, like that range of a band. You know, it's almost like a mini documentary series of a band.
I'll have to come up with a concise pitch for John, because he's the overseer, impresario of Furious Nakamura. John, I think we've got a plan here. Would like to get you a digital copy of our album La Playa. We don't have a physical version, but I'll send you a digital version of that. That's an interesting one where it seems to trigger interesting angles of engagement, because, again, we're strictly, you know, we're not an original surf band, we're not strictly a covers band. I'd say we don't tear the fabric, but we pull the fabric of, I consider electric folk music, in my opinion. It's accessible, and it's there to be interpreted, and I think we interpret it in some creative ways. I think we've got some feedback where people say, no, you've ripped the fabric and you're off on your own. But I refuse. I keep on taping ourselves back on.
I don't think we want to be pigeonholed in any sort of situation. And, you know,
right.
You know, it's kind of fun to toy with people a little bit and their sensibilities, and, you know, like when we were at the Surf Museum stage at Huntington Beach.
Yeah. Yeah,
These
yeah.
bands before us all had their boutique vintage amps and vintage fenders and matching outfits, and we rolled a Marshall half stack on stage. We didn't know that there was a band shell, so we just brought the loudest amp. We're playing outside. And this Marshall stack comes on stage, and you could hear a pin drop. All of a sudden, people are like, "What the hell's going on out there?" And,
Yeah.
and that was fun. And people. We were playing a Highway Star, our version of Highway Star, and out pops a surfer with his wetsuit half off that he had run in from the water. It was like, "What the hell are you guys doing? This is great." I'm like, "Yeah, we're having fun."
Dude, that is a magical spot right there. I was like, literally, because I'm in Philadelphia, and I lived on the Central Coast in Monterey for quite some time.
Okay.
But being on that, on Huntington Beach, and seeing there was like a some sort of surf contest on ESPN being shot on the beach when I was there.
Okay.
And I'm just like this shit doesn't happen in Philadelphia. Sometimes, they shot 12 Monkeys there with Bruce Willis and Brad Pitt scenes there while I was in college.
Okay.
So there were times when I walked through, their shooting area and didn't know it. They were shooting some stuff for, on my route to college, the walk on the route. So I'm like, well, I didn't know it. Then they were shooting things around City Hall, and I'm like, holy shit, Terry Gilliam. So that's the sort of thing I see here, but out there it seems like a completely different planet. It's just like, damn.
Well, yeah, you could say that about Southern California, and you could say that about Huntington Beach within Southern California, because it's sort of in a way like Venice Beach. It attracts a lot of visitors and a lot of let's say interesting people, good people watching place. So
it's incredible. It just like LA, the Sunset Strip. That's a completely different planet. So you guys, in a sense, when you get to frequent those areas, it's I don't know. It's a culture shock for me. I felt so inspired to create something. You know what I mean?
Sure. And
Positive response to it. Sometimes people have other responses. John's fully immersed himself as a Southern Californian, as an example in an Al's Bar documentary. Al's Bar is a historic punk rock venue, or the American Hotel, the hotel that hosts it.
Sort of LA's CBGB's, and it actually closed in, I want to say 2001 or something, but it was a place that any band was welcome to play, and a lot of bands learned how to play live there. And it was, and people say CBGB's was worse. I can't imagine how. I mean, there were no doors on the bathrooms here, but a funny place. Everyone complained about playing there, and then when it went out of business, when they shut it down, everyone complained that it was closed. And the funny thing, the night that we knew that it was going to close, we just didn't know when, and they announced it at 6 o'clock one Friday night. This is our last night, and bands from across town just showed up. The people that already had their gear in their car playing shows came to Al's Bar and then played again. They had people playing in each room of the bar, and
that's awesome.
Crazy times. But it's an interesting movie. It's called Tales of the American Hotel, and it's on I think you can see it on Amazon Prime. And awesome. The film owners, it should be free. The film producer and director, their idea was just to make because they used to live in the hotel upstairs, which was it was a monthly hotel, and it was filled with artists, and the bar downstairs was sort of their living room, so to speak. And they started doing some historic research and then realized that this hotel had this long history. It was the first hotel to allow African Americans to stay there. And it was basically near the original train station, so the porters from Amtrak or trains from Chicago needed a place to stay. And it's had many incarnations, and was once predominantly occupied by Japanese people before World War II, and then the mob took over after Japanese were interned. And it's a very interesting movie, but there's a lot of cultural touch points of the Los Angeles music scene. So.
And John's contribution is his band got banned from Al's Bar. And John, I think that one of our first musical interactions as I recorded your band, Leather Hyman.
Yeah.
You know, every once I still think about that band name and think it's one of the strangest names. But
John, congratulations!
Oh, thank you. It was the worst name and the best name. It was unforgettable. So good for notoriety and not good for corporate record labels trying to cash in on the underground music scene after Nirvana's huge success. So
yeah. I actually had there's a record convention. I don't know if you remember those things that used to be out.
Yeah.
There was one in Allentown, and I was very, very young, and I managed to get, at that time, which was very hard to get, I got a cassette of Slip It In by Black Flag, and and bootlegs were like, were so easy to get there. I got, of course, there was a Metallica one in somewhere, and those bootlegs were good, but I got the Misfits live at Al's Bar.
Right.
On cassette. Like, I was all about cassettes at that point because it was easy. You know, I had a Walkman. I could take it everywhere.
Well, and we had boom boxes with 2 cassette decks you could duplicate.
Yes. Yeah, that's how shit worked at that time.
Yeah. And I had no idea.
That.
I had no idea the Misfits played at Al's Bar, so...
I did not either, and I didn't make the connection with how important that bootleg was until you just said it right now.
Wow. That is great.
Yeah.
We were, speaking of Black Flag, my other music collaborators have a new band called Astral Jets that played at Alex's Sunday night with it was sort of an SST Records reunion, and Astral Jets are members of my Santa Sabbath Christmas band, plus Des Cadena from the original Black Flag lineup, and now he's a Misfit. And he wears a New York Mets fan, so I think he's a member of the New York Mets now too. But and Paul Rossler is the other member of this. He was a member of the early LA keyboard punk band, the Screamers, and and Saccharine Trust was on that bill, an early SST band, and our bass player plays in Saccharine Trust as well. So it's a small world out here. You throw a couple of filters in there, and then we all know each other.